Okay, so hello, folks, and welcome to the making of the Cape Verdean. I'm so happy to be here today with the group from Cabo Verde United. And I am so impressed with this group and all the things that they're doing. So I'm excited to have you here. I'd like to start off with introducing everybody. And I think the first person I'd like to introduce is Stephanie Ramos, who is the president, right? You're the president of Cabo Verde United?
Yes.
So tell us a little about you, introduce yourself, and a little bit about your background and who you are.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jean, for having us. My name is Stephanie Ramos. I am a second generation Cape Verdean American. I live in Milford, Connecticut. My parents, my mother's side of the family, my grandparents came from Brava. My mother's parents and my father's side of the family comes from Sunny Cloud.
Can you tell me their names, though? The names?
Yes. So my grandparents, my maternal grandparents are João Baptiste Fortes and Estefania Fortes. Estefania Faria Fortes.
And your parents?
And my parents are Irene Fortes Ramos, and my father is James Joseph Ramos. On my father's side, from Sunny Cloud, it's Emilia Freitas, and my grandfather was Joseph Carlos Ramos. And I didn't know, my dad's father died when he was 3, so my father didn't even know his father, but
okay.
So it's Sunny Cloud and Brava.
Okay, and, very good.
I'm the newly elected president at CVU. I've been involved with Cabo Verdean United since 2001. I had the position of secretary for many years up until this past year, and I became the newly elected president. And very proud to be part of this wonderful organization.
Excellent, excellent, and thank you. And next we have Jeannie Lomba.
That's correct. So I was born in the island of Brava, immigrated when I was 14 years old to the United States. My mother's name is Jovita Barros, and my dad is José Cota. They were both from Brava. My whole family is from Brava. My grandparents, who brought my sister and I up until we immigrated to live with our mother, her name is, my grandfather is Pedro Quirino Barros. My grandmother, Matilde Correa Barros. That's my maternal grandparents, and my paternal grandparents are my grandfather. I never met him. They died before I was born. His name was Manuel Burgo Cota, and my grandmother, Eugenia Burgo Cota, who I'm named after.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And who do we have next as the other co-founder? That would be Tilla Adams.
Yes, hi.
Yes, hi, Tilla.
Hi, nice to meet you, and thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely.
My story is a repeat of my sister Jai. I call her Jai, she's Ginny. So it's the same story. We have the same parents, same background, and same immigration story to the U.S. I was 12, 12 years old when I came. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. And next, did you want to say something else?
No, I was just going to say that I have a son. I'd like to mention him. He's very important to me, Zachary Adams. But everything else is sort of what my sister said.
Excellent, excellent. And while you're talking about son, let me just say my daughter Susan is usually my co-host. She couldn't be here today, so I'm just going to give that little shout out to her. So,
yes.
Okay, so Nelson Evora.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you, Jean. My story is a little bit different. I came to the US like 7 years ago. I'm from Sal. My father is from Sal, from my mother's is from São Nicolau, the village of Preguiça. It's a fisher village in São Nicolau. But about my grandparents, I have another interesting history. My grandparent is Italian because in the 40s, the island of Sal was not a colony from Italy, but the airport was managed by Italians. So everything in the island was Italians, and so my grandparent is an Italian. And when they lost the Second World War, because they were with Germany, so they were kicked off, and then the Portuguese take back south and run from the 40s. So my grandparents from my father's side is from Italy, and the rest is from São Nicolau and Santo Antão Island. I'm here
Oh,
in
yay, Sant Anton. That's where my
Santo
parents
Antão, yes.
Yes.
And I'm perhaps the last one to become a member of Cabo Verdean United. I'm very glad to work with Jeannie, Stephanie, Tila, and now Eddie.
That's excellent. And now we're going to get to New Bedford born Eddie.
Yes.
Eddie Esteve.
Actually, I'm not New Bedford born.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
My birth name is Eduardo Figueiredo-Esteves. I was actually born in Brava, but and I have one son and two daughters. My mother was born in New Bedford. Her parents are from Sunny Cloud. My mother's name was Maria Ana Figueiredo. She eventually married somebody by the name of Santos. So many people in New Bedford know her as Mary Ann Santos. Yeah. But my grandfather's Antonio Manuel Figueiredo from Sunny Cloud. And my grandmother was Ana Maria Lopes. And she also was a descendant of the Arujo family. My father's family is Eduardo da Silva Esteves from Brava. So his parents are also from Brava. So just like Stephanie, we've got Brava and Sunny Cloud in the house. But my mother's mother died when she was only 6. So she was adopted by her godparents. And in 1931, they brought her to Brava, of all places, even though her family was from Sunny Cloud. So my brother, my sister, and I were all born in Brava, and we came to the United States in 1956 and 57.
Okay.
And as far as my involvement with CVU, I've been involved since last year, but just like Morabeza and all Cape Verdean families, I feel like I've been part of this group since its inception. And excellent. I'm a direct descendant of your dad being my mentor growing up in New Bedford. So everything I've done and accomplished is a result of Manny Costa's influence.
That's
wonderful. Well, I think somehow we're all connected in some way, and so our families, so our grandparents, through the island history, and that's why it's important that I like people to hear where people came from, you know, what is their background in terms of what they do in the communities and how they're related to various other people that we all know. And in saying that, I just want to give you all a background, a brief background, that I started this program based on the fact that my father wrote and I edited and published The Making of the Cape Verdean, which talks all about New Bedford. And it talks about the history going back from when we first came here right up until the 70s. And
there it is.
She got the book right there. There you have it. I got to stamp it for you with my father's signature inside.
Awesome.
Excellent. I love it. So in with that, I just started at some point. I realized, like all of us realize, how important our history and our culture is. And we have to be the stewards of that going forward and keeping the islands progressing, keeping, you know, our folks informed here of what's going on there, and all the things that we can do to preserve the history and the culture of our people. So I'm going to start with, I'd like to start with one of the first founders, the two founders, and just to tell me how this whole idea came about. So who wants to be the first one out of the two sisters that started Cape Verdean United?
I'll let Tila go since I talked so much before.
Oh, that's
Okay, so I think something that's always in our heart. I think when you leave, we left Cape Verde very young, so and Cape Verde stayed with us forever. And I think coming here and seeing what we have, what our kids have, and the opportunities we have here. And it was on a trip to Cape Verde. My sister and I went, and I remember specifically watching kids we were now adults. They're like young kids just peeking behind the little wall and looking at us. It kind of reminded me of myself when I was that age, how people came from the US and how we would look at them in a way. It kind of brought that back, that idea that for me at that time, they were different. They were us, but they were different. And they had all the possibilities. And that's how I saw them and what they could do. Not that they did anything, but you have sort of that,
Right.
you look up to the people that come back, and and in that moment, I felt it, and it was beautiful, but it was also sad that for so many years, so little had changed. And I
Right.
think we came back and we knew we had to do, we always wanted to. My entire family, we're a family of giving. I grew up with grandparents that were, took in people into their homes. It was normal for us to have kids living with us, feeding them. Families would come for dinner. So our house was an open door. My aunt was so giving. I have stories of her just literally taking things and just bringing to neighbors and family, sharing dinners and nights, walking to bring neighbors food and exchanging food. So being here, knowing that we could do something, and we started talking about that. What can we do? And that's how it developed. And we've done it. We feel there's so much more that we can do. But that was the start. So Jay,
That
if you
was
want
the
to add
start. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So now, Jeannie, I want you to kind of just add a little something to that.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely what Tila said. But for me, it was, the idea of play. I didn't have those possibilities. We played in, getting a rope and tying it to this tree and try to make it into a swing, and the branch of the tree would fly off with us, and it's, thank God we didn't break limbs. We did have a lot of scratches and sores, but so then knowing that here we are and we have the possibility of making a difference, then we thought, okay, what can we do? There was people sending barrels with food,
Right.
with clothing, with school supplies. Tila and I were the recipient of all that stuff when we were growing up in Cape Verde. So, but then we're like, okay, remember how we felt. We felt like we were not seen. We were children, and there was no organized area for us to play. So we talked to each other, what if we do playgrounds? And so of course we spoke with people about that. And I don't know if you know of Cape Verdeans who grew up in Cape Verde. Play is not something that is like, oh my God, it's so exciting. We want to feed people. And but we felt that play was so important and
Absolutely.
so important in children's learning. And for us, putting ourselves back in Cape Verde, we asked ourselves what we would want when we were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. What would we have wanted? And it was play. It was a place to play. So that's why we decided, okay, playgrounds it is. So that's how it came about.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to Stephanie, because now you're the president, right?
Yes.
So when did you become the president, and what was your interest in this, and how did you meet Gina and Tila?
So just briefly, I want to preface by saying that I owe everything to my parents, being born in the US, but we were brought up in our culture, the love of Cabo Verde, the culture, the music, the food, the traditions. So we grew up that way, having been born here. So my whole family, we owe our parents a lot for doing that. And my mother and I took our first trip to Cape Verde. I took my mother in the year 2000. And it was just a wonderful experience. You land there, and I got on my knees and kissed the ground, and you just felt this is where I came from. It was just that immediate bond with the motherland. And it's 2001 when I came back and heard about this wonderful function, a Valentine's Day dance at the casino, I think, in Rhode Island. And
Foxwood? No, is that Fox?
no, at Roger Williams.
Yeah, Roger Williams, right? Yeah.
And I took my mom, and I knew nothing about this group, but we went, and it was Jeannie and Tila's dance that they were giving, and I learned listened and learned and said, I have to be part of this. And I waited till after the dance, and I went and I met with Jeannie and expressed my desire to join the group. And we set up a phone interview. And so that was 2001. So that's how I became a member. And I took on the role of secretary. And I just became president. Jeannie was the president from the inception of the group up until last year. And, you know, we had our VP had, decided to move on from the group. And so I took the role of presidency, and now Jeannie is the VP. So
it's amazing how things just grab you.
yes.
You know, all of a sudden you're part of this and you see it and you go, oh my God, I see the need there. I understand this. I want to be part of that.
Yes,
and it doesn't
yes.
take too much when you're talking in a group of people. I've seen that here in New Bedford. I've seen it in Rhode Island. I've seen it up in Boston. People just, we understand the need, especially when you go there.
Yes.
I have to say, I've been to almost all of the islands except two, which is Mayo and San Nicolau. And someday I hope to get there, but I've been to all of them, and I'm so happy because when I first got off that plane, I actually kissed the ground because I knew this is where my ancestors came from.
Exactly.
So it was a wonderful experience. So I'm going to move on to Nelson, because you just got involved in the program. Then I'm going to go to Eddie, but Nelson, so tell me how you got involved.
Yeah. Before being part of CVU, I was the president of USAL and Friends Community Action. So usually people from Cape Verde here in the US, in Rhode Island, they're organized by islands. So the South Islands community has its association, Praia, Boa Vista, Santo Antão. So we keep like separate by the separation by islands. So I was the president of USAL. And this was, I believe, 2017. And I saw that the organization from Cape Verdean base, they need to unite. So I start in the next event, say, we're going to invite all the other organizations to come to our event. So we had like a Cachupa Fest, Cachupa Festival, and we invite like at least 6 organizations from the other islands, Santo Antão, Fogo, Brava, and then CVU was the only one to show up.
Oh my goodness.
And this took my attention. I saw what they used to do. They came with their pen of cachupas, selling cachupa in our festival. And they forgot me. They forgot about me. A few years later, when we meet, I saw Stephanie I was in Sal, and she went to Sal just to meet with the mayor of Sal, saying that, well, next year we want to come to Sal to build the playground. I saw them, and I talked to them, and we keep this connection from Sal because I was resident in Cape Verde at that time. So after I saw another president come to USAL, so I was just a member, and I felt that they are doing a very good job. So I decided to be part of this group. I'm very glad I could
be a part of it. Yeah. So then let me just say this. Let me just say this about our people. There's been this division throughout the years. This group, you got the Bravas, you got the Dash, you got the people from Fogo, and everybody has their kind of like reality of what they think each island represents. And it's sad because I remember growing up, they had a couple of old men clubs, as we used to call them. Someone from Santo Antão Club, and then you had the Brava Club. That's such a divisive move, and unfortunately that's the way it was back then. And that was so great that you attempted to bring all these groups together, because we need to unite, as you say, in this Unite Cabo Verde, in order to move ahead and help Cape Verde, help what's still going on there, help our communities here. So I mean, that's just and Eddie will tell you when we start talking to Eddie that this is what my father and a lot of our other relatives attempted to do throughout the different communities, So Eddie, go ahead. You can jump in on that one.
All right. Absolutely. I've only been involved with the group for a very short period of time. I had heard that there was a group of Cape Verdeans building playgrounds on all of the islands of Cabo Verde. And I was excited to try and find them. I've been in Connecticut for 40 years. And the area of Connecticut that I live actually has very few Cape Verdeans. So my only connection to Cape Verde is when I went back to New Bedford or visited family in Rhode Island. So I was happy to learn that Jeannie only lives about 15 miles from me.
Wow.
And one of the things that I've gotten involved with during my retirement, I retired in 2008, was ancestry. So I've been doing a lot of ancestry research. And lo and behold, Jeannie and I are fourth cousins in Tila.
Wow.
And Stephanie's family is connected to me as well from Brava and Sunny Cloud. So just about everybody I tumbled with on the House of Champions is a DNA cousin to me.
He's talking about my father's group that he started, the House of Champions,
Right.
which eventually became Tonka's Tumblers. Toy
I
started that. But you
Toy,
know,
Toy's
saying
the
that,
cousin, Ray Ray's the cousin, Buddy Cruz is cousin, you name it, they're my cousin.
and talking
So
about
Say something
ancestry,
about
though,
that.
talking about ancestry though, because I found out through another cousin of mine who she recruited me to work on the TACV, the inauguration when it first started, the airplane. So anyhow, we worked so well together. We had been friends. Well, we just found out about 2 years ago, we're related to ancestry. And she's related to a couple of you on here, Jeannie Valls.
Oh, Jeannie, of course.
Yeah, Jeannie Valls is related to, I think, you, Jeannie Lumber, and
To my husband.
okay,
John
to your
Lumber,
husband. Okay,
yeah, who's also a
Right.
member.
Jean, I have to tell that what you are doing is typical from São Nicolau. So this shows that no doubt that Eddie's family is from São Nicolau, because when you find someone from São Nicolau in Cape Verde, he gonna find out that you are cousins.
Yes.
Eddie thinks that this is by coincidence, but it's not by coincidence. It's in his blood. It's from São Nicolau, and people from São Nicolau, when they find you, they must find that you are family from somewhere.
Right.
It's my parent. It's my grandparent. It's impossible to talk with someone from São Nicolau and he doesn't find out that you are family.
And you know what we say here, in New Bedford, especially me growing up in New Bedford, we're all related. So you got to be careful. That's why you got to go outside of New Bedford. But let's get back on point. I want to start talking again about these wonderful projects that you folks have been doing. So I'm going to ask Stephanie, do you want to start off with that? Just let's talk about first the one about these playgrounds, which is so phenomenal. I come from, like Eddie says, my father, he used the playground in New Bedford to do everything. So please go ahead.
Playground.
Yes.
Well,
our first project that we just completed this past summer was oh my God. Project Sandbox. And just to, reiterate what both Jeannie and Tila said about the importance of play. It's an integral part of a child's growth. It just affects every area of, their youth and such a positive factor. So we came up with the idea of building a playground on every island, Project Sandbox. And we just completed it, as I said. The last 2 islands we needed to do were Sal and Boa Vista, which we went last year and completed the project. I think our first initial plan was 6 years, guys, to do it all. But it took many more years, but we never gave up. We went through a pandemic. There were times when things got tough, but we just never gave up, and we just knew we were going to see this project to the end, in which we did.
And let me just interject for the audience when they see this, is that the islands that you did was Brava in 2006, Fogo 2008, Sunny Cloud 2012, San Vicente and Santa Antonio 2014, Mayo and Santiago in 2018, and then Brava again in 2020, Sal in 2022, and Boa Vista in 2022. That's amazing.
Yes.
So I want to hear about how you do this. I mean, I know you And we can say that it's through funding. We just can't say the other stuff, unfortunately. But how do you do this? How did you accomplish this?
Jeannie, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can
Selling a
take
lot
that.
of cachupa.
We did
That
sell a lot
too.
of Cachupa. And
Yeah.
and Stephanie kind of touched on the initial aspect of fundraising, which was trying to do dinner dances, inviting Cape Verdean community, inviting the musicians, and those was so much fun, except for when it would be like the week before the event and we would have 10 people coming. And the remaining of people would be coming the Friday before the event. So that was so stressful. We did probably like 5 or 6 dances, and then it was not returning really any good money. We would make, $1,000, $2,000 in working for months. So then we reverted to, okay, you know what, we're going to figure this out and raise money ourselves. So we decided to participate at the Cape Verdean Festival, yearly festival in Providence. And then Stephanie got us connected to the Onset Festival. And there we could raise about $10,000 per year. And so with the money that we raised, we kept putting it together, buying the playground, shipping it. And so that's how we raised probably 90% of all the revenue up to today, up to Eddie's fundraising.
But let me ask you this too. So when you raise the money and where do you buy the materials and how does it get there and who bills it?
Gila, you want to take that?
Oh, okay. So the purchase we buy, Jeannie, I call her Jai. So she does the purchases, all the logistics of buying. As far as shipping, we ship through Atlantic shipping. And so we have to work with their schedule when they're going. Also, when we can get the location set up. So all of that has to be coordinated. But once the playground is off and on its way to Cabo Verde, and we get our tickets, we book hotels, whatever we have to do, and then we go. It's us. We build it.
We build it. And no, is it like a peg set? I mean, how do you do this? I mean, you have to know how to build.
Well,
Go ahead, Nelson.
I think the easiest part is what Tila just said, is to put the material in Cape Verde, but get in Cape Verde and get the connection between Silent Praia and Silent Folk. This is another adventure. So now the problems can start really. So because it's very difficult to go from one island to another, to get back. The customs sometimes takes some time processing.
Right.
When you get the equipment there. So it's the adventure has 2 parts. The parts in the US, I think, is the easiest one because here things are more like stable. But when to get to Cape Verde and to build the playground and get back to the US in 2 weeks, 1 week or 2 weeks, this is another adventure.
So let me ask you this. Who provides the land there?
This is very easy. Usually the municipalities. The mayors are very glad someone is coming here to build a playground for free. So they prepare the land, and when we go, everything is prepared. We just have to build the playground.
Really?
Yes.
That's amazing. So the mayors have been working with you there. They call them the presidents of each island. They have been working with you. So
I will add, I'm sorry, Jean, that part of the
anytime.
When we do decide what island we're going to, build one, and we make the connection with the Commoda and the Presidente, and we do have, some criteria that we want to build a playground where there is most need, where kids really, let's face it, some kids closer to the villa, the town, center of town may have more access to something like that. So we always do ask that it be in an area where there's most need.
Good. Now, let me ask you, because in Santiago, I know that Santa Cruz, that area there, because as a Vista volunteer, I was part of the group from Wareham that went and we did a sister program with the middle school in Santa Cruz and with Wareham Middle School.
Oh,
So in
nice.
seeing that, I got to see that these kids have to walk a long way to go to school.
Yeah.
When our parents used to say that years ago, no, these
Yeah.
kids do some walking.
Yep.
So
Yes.
I'm just wondering if you went that far down, like to Santa Cruz, that area there for Santiago.
Well,
Santiago.
go ahead, Jeannie. I'm not sure.
No, so Santiago, we went to the furthest point you can possibly go.
Yeah,
and
good.
the area is called Rincon. And
Okay.
it's a little fishing village. And it's almost like at the end of the playa somehow, where
Okay.
you cannot go past. Once you get to Rincon, that's it. It's the end. And we worked with the mayor of Santa Catarina. Yeah, and he unfortunately has passed, but he was such a great mayor, and he could have put that playground anywhere, but this was an area that he felt had the greatest need. Those kids have nothing, and there were tons of beautiful children.
Yes.
Oh, and they were excited. I'm sure they were excited to see
thrilled.
this.
Yes. So that is
That's
one
the
of the
joy.
most remote area that we've ever
Yes.
built.
Yes.
Hey,
So,
Jane,
Eddie,
our
ahead, Eddie.
motto is building smiles one island at a time. And it's just amazing to see the smiles and the laughter and the happiness.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
and
like
also
we were
one
lucky.
muscle.
We had multi-playground.
Right. And
Yeah.
also one muscle at a time, Eddie, because I know you've been doing some push-ups,
Yeah.
trying to raise
Right.
some funding.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
okay, well, you can talk about that. We just can't,
Right.
tell people where to go. But
let me tell you a little bit about the project that I initiated with the help of the entire team. It's called Pull-Ups for Playgrounds in Cabo Verde. And you know, with all I learned on the House of Champions, being Manny getting us into the YMCA with a free membership, led to physical fitness that's taking me into my 70s.
you got to be creative.
I work out regularly, so I figured I can do pull-ups. Pull-ups are a very difficult exercise. If you go in the gym, there's very few people that you see doing pull-ups. They'll do weights, they'll do this, they'll do that, but you rarely see them do pull-ups. So I said, I'll take an exercise that's very difficult, a pull-up. I'll combine it with a task that's very difficult. That's a fundraising event. You know, any nonprofit knows that fundraising is very difficult. And then if you get that 70-year-old to try and tie it all together, you're taking three difficult things to be successful. And the way I look at it is if you do something with a purpose, I call them pull-ups with a purpose are a lot easier than anything without a purpose. So go ahead.
No, so I just want to say,
I figured I would do 1,000 pull-ups over a 30 to 45 day period. And today I'm happy to say we had the whole team at the fitness center counting down my last 15 pull-ups. So we successfully got to 1,000 today.
Excellent. Applause. Yes.
Yeah.
So what I was going to ask you that when you're as far as all of these programs, and you said you had some photos that you could share, right?
Okay,
you have some photos you can share. I would love to see them. And I know the audience would love to see them as well.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's great. So I know, okay, so we have the sandbox and you have the kit for kids. And who wants to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can. Or Tila, do you want to do it?
So you go ahead.
Yeah. So along with playgrounds, you know, which we see as part of learning, we also recognize that in Cape Verde, it's very difficult for the parents to be able to afford school supplies for the children. So along with the playground, we decided that we would create several different kits that we would bring with us. And so we decided with school kits, which have with all types of school supplies that a child would need, notebooks, pencil, pens, and of such. And then the other thing that we would bring with us is hygiene product, toothbrushes, toothpaste, Band-Aid, you know, antibiotic ointment for the scrapes that we remember getting, etc. And then the other thing that we added was toys. I mean, we didn't have any toys growing up. You know, we played with like broken pieces of glass and rocks and sand. That's what we played with, you know, but we were very creative. We were very happy playing with
Absolutely.
those. But oh my God, to have a doll, my grandma would put that doll there and we just look at it. That's how we play with a doll. You look at it because you couldn't break it. You know, so the doll was just for looking, not playing. So
It's like the couches, just like the plastic covered
That's it.
couches you couldn't sit on.
yeah, so we then collect gently used toys, stuffed animals, dolls, action figures.
Sporting goods equipment.
Yeah, right.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you ever do any female products for the young ladies?
We have not gotten to that, but that's a great
That's
idea.
very important because I'm going
Yeah.
to tell you the YWCA here in New Bedford does that. You might even want to try to connect with them because they have all these feminine products that they send and offer to different places. So yeah, definitely. That's so important. You know, we found that to be very important because we just take it for granted here.
Yeah.
You know, but over there.
Yeah.
So let me just jump in on Nelson here. Nelson, so you've been like the ambassador, I understand. This is
Yes.
an ambassadorship that you have here. So what do you do as this liaison to Cape Verde?
Yes, because here in the US, the CV is very strong, has a very good team. But when you need to start to connect with the mayors and with the customs, with the trips between the islands, so you need someone there, or at least who knows people there, because for example, Transparency International is an international organization. They every year they have a report about the index of perception of corruption in Africa, and Cape Verde is the top 3. So it's the best. You almost don't have corruption in Cape Verde. Okay, but the administration doesn't work like in the US, where everything is like very straightforward. In Cape Verde, if you know someone, your things are gonna go faster. And I was lucky to be in Cape Verde all these years working there, and I came to the US just 7 years old. So I don't know everybody in Cape Verde, but I know a lot of people. And I think CVU needed someone who was in the ground, who knows the ground, who knows how to deal with the administration. And that's what I do mostly for Cape Verdean United.
And, you know, we know that it's still a developing country. And we know every time a new administration gets in to power, whatever the promises that were made prior to that, sometimes they don't happen. I've seen this because of projects I worked on in Cape Verde, you know, and that's unfortunate, but we understand it, and we understand our people, and we understand even about time. We call it Cape Verdean time.
Yeah.
Because things can take so long, you know. So Eddie, I'm going to ask you, I mean, what has your experience been like doing when we talked about these projects, especially going back to the gym piece? I mean, you know, creating those. Did you go to Cape Verde with the group yet?
I have not gone, but I will be going on the next trip that we'll be doing on April 21st.
Okay.
So I'm really looking forward to it. I've gone to back to Cape Verde on a couple of different occasions back in 1987 and also in 2018. So I've been to 5 of the 9 islands, and I'm looking forward to getting to Sunny Cloud just for the vacation part. But on the 21st, we'll be going.
So
I'm looking forward to it.
The next project is going to Sunny Cloud. That's the next one.
No. The next project's going to Fog.
Oh, Fog. Okay.
My sister and I are going prior to the project beginning to go to Fog. I mean, to Sunny Cloud.
And do you get to see a former President Pedro Paez who's there in Fog? Yes, because I went to visit him while I was there as well. Yes. Very, very nice, very open, very, you know, he has a lot of motor baths, as they say.
Yes.
So I want to talk about one of my other favorite topics that you guys are doing is books for Cape Verde. I love that. So who wants to touch on that?
Keely, you want to go?
Jeannie again.
Yeah.
But that's your
okay.
I can speak to it, but that is her passion, so I'll let her take
it.
So so again, going back to our childhood and having grown up there and having one book that I could read just for pleasure saddens me. And of course, I'm a mother of 3 now, adult young ladies. And, we made books as a focus in our household, and I saw how much they love reading, how much they love learning. And knowing that in Cape Verde, I didn't have that. I didn't grow up with that. And I love to read as well. So we thought that after the mission of Project Sandbox is completed, we would add on we will continue to build playgrounds, but add an additional aspect to the organization. And that was, we've had so many different names, but it's pretty much bringing books and learning to the children. So now the challenge has been, we haven't started it yet, Jean, that's something that we want to do. But the challenge is that the language is in Portuguese.
I was just going to ask about that.
So, and then having to source books in Portuguese have been a bit of a challenge, because I could go anywhere here and get books and send it, but the kids can't read it. So, so that's been a challenge. But we've changed a little bit from books. I mean, talking to Nelson, and he's thinking about, what about bringing computers? What about bringing that world to the children? A lot of them, Nelson, you'd say like they'd be teenagers and have never been able to have access to computers. So we're trying to figure that out, and hopefully that will work, and we'll make it a reality. But that's
and with technology, they're coming out with so many things. One of the things I was impressed with, because there's sometimes people around me that speak different languages, and I speak a little Creole and I understand a little. And even though I took the classes, as you get older, your brain doesn't absorb the information as well. And I'm not going to throw that on myself about the age thing, but I know that there's a device that they have now that you can talk into it and translate. So that's something that maybe somebody will come up with, something that will translate books, because people use Kindles, and that might be another thought out there as far as having books downloaded on Kindle where they can translate the information to Creole, because that is so important when books, we talk about people, we're looking so much at using social media and all that kids are not reading enough. And there's nothing like holding a book in your hand and taking the time to smell those pages, to read, to look at the photos and all of that. I mean, and that's what gets kids. We all, I think, grew up with parents or maybe somebody reading to us, and the importance of that connection, just that connection. So your next step now is you're going to be heading out to Fogo, and you've already have this plan. You have the land set aside already. Where in Fogo is it going to be?
São Felipe.
Yeah.
Oh, São Felipe. Okay, right there. Yeah.
So actually, just more than São Felipe. So we got contacted by the mayor of São Felipe, and Nelson, you can correct me with exactly what the title of what's happening in April, end of April. I think São Felipe is celebrating their 100th anniversary of their inception. Is that correct, Nelson?
Yes, it is.
I think, I heard that.
Yeah. So they reached us and said, we are building this beautiful park in honor of this 100th anniversary. Would you come and put a playground for the children? So we're like, okay, we just came back and we have zero money right now because we just built our last 2 playgrounds in October. We have zero funds. But we're like, how can we say no? How can we say no to this? Because it is such an honor that they reached us to build this. So that's when Eddie came and said, okay, let's do a fundraiser and trying to raise the funds to build the playgrounds. But then we thought about, okay, so Fogo has 3 municipalities, correct, Nelson?
Yes.
Yeah. São Felipe, Santa Catarina.
Mosteiros and Santa Catarina.
Right. So usually we build 2 because it's so costly for the members to go to Cape Verde, because we're paying our own way, we're paying for our flights, we're paying for our stay, we may have to pay for our food. Sometimes the mayors do cover some of that, but sometimes most of the time they didn't. So the cost is really, and then with 2 weeks of our vacation to go, it's very expensive. So we try to build 2 playgrounds every time we go. So having 3 areas and to do 2 playgrounds and leave 1 out would have been really sad for the children.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we decided that we're going to go to 1 island and build 3 playgrounds.
Yeah.
And it was the
That's
first time that we attempted
wonderful.
that.
Yes.
So, but
That's-
it's a challenge fundraising for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, it is. I mean, I belong to a lot of different organizations here in New Bedford, the Bedford Historical Society, the Women's Fund, and I have another committee right now that I want to surprise you folks later on, and I can't share it right at the moment, but we're doing something for the parade coming up and for the whole Cape Verdean celebration week for 2023. But I want to know, what's the best way? Do you have volunteers? I know you must have a lot of volunteers. Do these volunteers go with you to Cape Verde, or can they? Or how many of you do go when you go to build these parks?
Stephanie, take that.
Well, so this past year was the first year, I think our biggest group that went was 16. Is that correct, guys?
Wow.
I think, yeah.
In Sal's. That's the largest group that has ever gone over the years. It was mostly family members, nieces and cousins, and a few friends have gone in the past. Even Jeannie, one of her 3 girls, one of their teachers from grammar school came along with us. I remember that trip.
How many are going this time?
This trip so far, I think it's at 11.
Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
So we pretty much go with our core group, and we build these playgrounds with our own hands. Wherever we go, the town, there are workers that will come, just men, they'll come around.
I was going to ask you, you must have, like, I know these young kids must get excited when they're watching you building this and everything. And you must have a great audience there.
Yes, all the time. But then the young men, and they just come and start helping. So we always do get the help from the community.
Right.
But as far as volunteers, we just last year, we just took on a few new members: Nelson, Eddie. We have Heather. Heather lives down in Virginia.
Yeah, I was going to say to mention that, because I know there were some other people who are on your board that.
Yes, so it's kind of new for us. We we're just used to the 6 of us, but it's growing. The organization is growing, and again, Jeannie's daughters have been with us since little girls. So we have always had the support of family members.
Support, yeah. And just before we went on, I was talking with another friend who is the president of the Cape Verdean Association here, Darlene Spencer. And I said, Darlene, I know this is the last minute. I should have tried to call you last night. I said, but do you want to come on and be a co-host with me? She would have, but she would have had to go to her office. I said, no, we'll do it some other time. We'll do a follow-up. So she wanted me to say hello, because she's really interested in finding out more about what you're doing, because I think these other Cape Verdean Association, like Nelson mentioned in the beginning, I think some of them, they may not know to the depths of what you're doing and how this is impacting, the communities there. So I wouldn't give up on that idea, Nelson, of bringing the islands, the people together, because Jeannie vows, when I was telling her, and, she lives in Rhode Island, she said that she knew of this, but I said, people need to get on this, because this is about our kids. This is about these kids that, enjoy being outside and enjoy these books and enjoy these little kits that you folks send. I mean, I think what you're doing here is absolutely, absolutely amazing. And I applaud you all. Yes.
Thank you.
Jane, I just want to interject for a second. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Just this past week, we were out in Waterbury at the Cape Verdean Social Club, and they just installed all of their new officers, and they were kind enough to invite us to attend their session. And we had a video that was actually on NBC TV in the Connecticut area, that covered our organization and what we're working on and how we're going about doing that. And so that was like a 3-minute video. I think I sent you a copy. They were able to show it at their social club, and they allowed us to set up a table with our pictures of the playgrounds that we've built, and people made donations to the program while we were there. We're trying to replicate that in Norwich. We would love to reach out to the communities in New Bedford, Brockton, Pawtucket, Providence, because there are a number of Cape Verdean associations that are doing their own thing, and are very willing to help if they know that there's a common goal in what we're trying to accomplish. And we were very well received in Waterbury. I believe we'll be successful in Norwich, and now we need to do it in other places as well.
Right. So that's why I mentioned Darlene Spencer, because when I mentioned to her about this, and she said, "Oh, I would love to meet these folks," because, you know, the Cape Verdean Association here, they bought this theater, and they've been working on years to try to rehab it and all that. Because, you know, in all of our communities, it's still a struggle to get funding, to get this, to get that. But I want people to know how to reach out to you if they want to volunteer or whatever they want to do to help. Where's the best place to go? Is it is it your I know that you have a website. Is that the best place to get the information? Stephanie,
That's
I'm going to ask you as the president.
Jeannie, well, we're working on redoing our website, but absolutely, you can go onto the website and find out more about us. I believe there's a spot where you can leave a message, but we have our email.
Okay.
Cabo
we have our
Verde.
email. We have our there's a phone number there too, Stephanie. Yeah, that
Yes, phone number.
So why don't you give that right now? Just give me the email, which is the email, and the phone number, so we can just have it right here and now.
Yes. So our email is Cabo Verdeans United @gmail.com. And the phone number is 860-266-6953 if they want to reach us by phone. And our PO box is PO Box 862, South Windsor, Connecticut 06074. But if they
want to send a letter.
They want to send a letter. Yes.
Yes, if they want to send a letter.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So I'm going to, because this time went by so quickly, but, we still have a minute. So I want to ask each one of you just some parting words on what you're doing or what you want people to know. So let me starting with Stephanie, let me just say this first of all. I want everybody to know that Stephanie's grandparents, John, and as she gave the other name, I always knew her by Fanny Forts.
Oh, yeah.
I lived on Washington Street. I actually practically lived in that house as a child. You couldn't ask for a better grandmother. My grandmother, one of them had passed, and the other one lived in Virginia. So she was my other grandmother. Yeah. And I used to walk into that home on Washington Square, and you'd smell that jug of cedar, that shag. And I knew that was like such comfort. It was so warm in that house. So I want to thank you for being a part of that family that was just part of my family. No, so I just want to say that.
That touches my heart. Thank you so much. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. For me, I see Cabo Verdean United going so far and so big and doing so much for all of Cabo Verde and all of its people. Yes, the focus is on children, but when we sit and talk, our minds it's amazing where all of our thoughts and ideas go. We just want to see Cabo Verde be a country where the people won't leave the country because they will be educated and they'll learn trades and they will stay and learn and help their own country be sustainable and successful, so they don't have to leave. Because one thing, we all know, you leave, but you never leave. You always have the love of where you came from, but just a better future, a bright, better future for all Cabo Verdeans. That's my vision for our group, that we're just going to continue. And as long as God blesses us with good health and maybe have this to pass on to our kids. But that's my
Okay.
dream.
Okay, that's wonderful. Jeannie?
Yeah. So, yeah, I do love our name, Cabo Verdeans United, and we hope to unite. And I think we have united Cabo Verdeans, and not just people from each island. This is Cabo Verdeans, but with work with children, I think it's so important to let those kids know that we love them, and we care for them, and we remember them. And, you know, if you are lucky to have grown in this country where you have everything, or not everything, because none of us have everything, but it's so much easier than these children who they don't have the possibility, you know. So, you know, help us, you know, call us, find out more about Cape Verdean, and finding more if you're born here and you want to be able to give back. This is a way that you can give back.
Okay.
So,
All right. Thank you. Tila?
Yeah, well, my commitment to CVU in Cabo Verde and our people is forever. I am looking forward. I think the last 20 years of traveling and being raised there, we have a unique perspective on the condition of Cabo Verde, good and not so good. And I think we are uniquely positioned to make great impact, broader our impact to include, I know children are forefront, but my vision is that we can do so much more. Cabo Verde has so much to offer. And sometimes it's just bringing a little bit of knowledge and connecting those resources and letting people know what they have is rich and how to help them get that so that it supports them. Like Stephanie said, sustain them for the long term. For CVU, we want to create a legacy that hopefully our children, we didn't talk about this, but we're also creating a junior officers. These are comprised of our children. So hopefully when we can no longer do this, that they will be able to take on the baton and run it forward.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. And I'm going to go to Nelson, and we got about 5 minutes left. So
5 minutes.
Nelson
So I changed my name to the website, our domain name.
Oh, good. Okay,
so
excellent.
People can see how it's spelled. Being in Cape Verdean United for these last few months, like I've learned a lot, because when I see the passion Stephanie, Jeannie, Tila, Eddie, and everybody puts on the work, they don't do it like for an association. They are not working for it. This is a concept of life. It's a way of being in life. So they do it naturally, and they do amazing things. That's why I'm involved. I know that we have a good future in front of us, because the passion everybody puts on this organization, and we know we want to reach our goals.
Excellent. Thank you. And Eddie?
My vision, and I think Stephanie touched a lot on this, is to see healthy, educated, and self-sufficient people in all communities of Cabo Verde. And if we can support projects to do that, I think we will have accomplished a lot. There's something I haven't run by our group at all, but I would love to see us be able to start a foundation that creates an endowment big enough to support the efforts of all the Cape Verdean groups. And then we will truly be Cabo Verdeans United. So that's my long-term vision.
Yeah, and that's a good one. And I think by the fact that you've started this, the one that you have, and you've been successful at it. I mean, I don't know any other group. I mean, maybe there is. I'm not going to try to be naive here, but that has done this to that level, to go to each one of these islands and do something that these kids will never, ever forget. They'll say, these people flew in on a plane, came in with their goods, created this park for us, and we're so much better for it. So again, I just have to applaud your efforts and all that you continue to do, because you are actually having an impact on our country in Cabo Verde. So I want to thank you, and thank you so much for being here today on the Making of the Cape Verdean, and I will be in touch soon. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope you're not as cold as we are over here.
So much.
Thank you.
Obrigado.
Thank you so much, Jean, for having
very well.